Hey, hi, welcome back. Welcome to my living room. Happen to be sitting on the other side of the living room today. Not a big deal. Um, Today's going to be really interesting and I hope extremely helpful. And that you'll find how all the things I've talked about so far, they all connect. And this subject of shame kind of wraps around all that other stuff. So we're going to talk about the hidden shame that is in a lot of people. And what does it look like? How does it play its game in us? How did it even get there, for one? Why do we have it? What's that about? Now, many people who had difficult upbringings, and it doesn't even have to be like massive situations of trauma or abuse. It just could even be, not just because it's still bad, but being bullied, being teased relentlessly by a parent or caregiver, that can totally induce shame within us. So how does it get there? This is what I want to talk about, because so much of the shame we feel doesn't even belong to us at all. Isn't that interesting? It's put on us. It's the stories we tell about ourselves when things happen. So those of us who were abused as children, if you remember, throughout the videos I talk about how children only know who they are by how they are treated. And if we're not treated well and certain things are happening to us that are out of our control, creating trauma, the primitive part of the brain is going to want to help us survive, and we build coping mechanisms. Part of the coping mechanisms involve how to deal with the shame. Unfortunately, the person who really should be feeling the shame is the perpetrators, right? They don't feel much. They just pass it on to us. And it is the idea of the stories we tell or the belief we have about ourselves because of what's happening to us. So I'm going to stick my glasses on. Forgive me for the glare from the lights, but I have a few notes I want to read. So I want to make this correctly. Shame can be defined as a feeling of embarrassment or humiliation that arises in relation to the perception that we give of having done something dishonorable, immoral, or improper. Now, I don't know about you, but I know, I remember being a kid and something going wrong, and somehow I'm thinking immediately I'm responsible for that, or I feel bad about that, or I'm embarrassed about something that has nothing to do with me. And I wasn't in the wrong. I just felt humiliated and embarrassed about just about everything, the story I told myself that I was a disaster, I was a loser, I was a big mistake in this world. And that hidden shame creates certain things, aspects in us that look like this. So I'm going to actually read this list. It's a little bit long, and it doesn't mean everything I'm reading we relate to, but there's probably a handful of things we can take away from that. So this is what happens when shame infiltrates our belief system and our thinking. Now, again, remember, when we're little, we don't know better. There's no one around us telling us anything different, trying to help us get to a healthy way of understanding what's going on in the world or what has happened to us. Because if there were, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be listening to things like this, right? We wouldn't find that we need to change certain thought patterns or belief systems. And the thing is a lot of people live with hidden shame. Now, why is it hidden? It becomes subconscious. It becomes a habit. It becomes a belief system, that feeling of humiliation and embarrassment. It just becomes a part of us. It's what pulls us down and keeps us in a mode of not having great self-esteem or think we're worthy or deserving of certain inalienable rights. It's like, well, who am I to want that? Who am I to dream that? And it keeps us in the feeling of oversensitivity. That's one of the major consequences of the hidden shame. And hidden meaning, number one, yeah, it gets embedded in us, it's subconscious. The other is an active thought of, I'm going to suppress all it. No one's going to know what happened to me. I'm never going to tell anybody. You're even too embarrassed to go see a counselor or a therapist about what has happened. Now, everything I'm sharing with you, I'm going to reiterate, I've said it before, never to take a place of therapy or counseling. I just want to be supportive and helpful to you, to anybody, and just to give enlightenment and some knowledge to specifically point out things that perhaps were vague to you before. I know to me they were. So I'm going to read this list here because I think it's important to understand. All right, the first one is feeling sensitive. Well, the thing is, being sensitive is not a bad thing. A lot of people who are empathetic and are just very sensitive to and compassionate toward situations and people, and that's good. But with that comes healthy boundaries. This means overly sensitive. We're overly sensitive to anything and everybody. We may feel unappreciated in ways in which there's really no reason to feel like we need to be appreciated, but we feel unappreciated. Instead of just appreciating ourselves and our gifts and talents and working on that within ourselves and being the best we can be, we feel like we're not appreciated. Uncontrollable blushing. I knew a person like this. She just was so embarrassed. You tried to give her a compliment about anything, and she put her head down and just blush. And she was even embarrassed by it. She didn't even know why it happened, but there was some hidden shame there that she felt humiliated or embarrassed and, not have the spotlight on her. And so she'd put her head down and blush. She was the sweetest person too, but she didn't want to hear that, I guess. Feeling of being used, feeling of rejection. And when we're rejected as children, we're ignored, our needs aren't being met when they absolutely need to be to feel secure in this world, it's easy to feel rejected. It's easy to project the feeling of being rejected as well. Feeling like you have little impact. That's true. I mean, how many adults feel like, why am I here? What am I doing? No one cares about me. I have nothing to offer. I shouldn't be here. And it's belittling themselves because they feel like they have nothing to offer the world. Like they have no impact. Now, I could allow that to affect me. I used to feel that way. I really did. And when I decided to do this YouTube channel several months ago, for many reasons, and I share that with the very first video, you can find it. It says start here. And I share my story and I share why I'm doing this. And even though hundreds of people knew about this, not many people are showing up. And I could feel like, what's the use? Why am I doing this? I don't care. But you know what? I'm still doing it because I feel I need to, and I should be doing this. And that these recordings are here for further use for anybody who wants to come and look at them. And I just feel that this is important to do. And in time, people will show up. In time, people will want to listen and learn. I think that's important too. Am I boring? Maybe. I hope not, but maybe. I don't have bells and whistles and music and lights and certain microphones and flash and all that, which seems to be what people are attracted to. But some things can't be hacked, and some things, I don't know. Anyway, do I need that? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'll think about that down the road. But for today, I'm here. I'm sharing what I know with the tools that I have. And I know that whoever listens to me, this will be helpful to them at some point. So I'm not letting that make, oh, my computer was having issues. It didn't tell me. Oh, thank you, Sherry, for letting me know. I'm so sorry about that. It's the internet that I have. I will say that I have an internet issue. It's been ongoing. So I really am sorry about that. If it jolts or freezes, that's not a good thing. And I don't know what was missed when I had issues. So I hope, I don't know. I'm just going to continue for now. But thanks for letting me know that. Yeah. So we're going to continue with this list. Being worried what others think about you. Yeah, I've suffered from that. What will people think? We're worried that you aren't treated with respect, feeling like others take advantage of you. I know I have not only I felt that way, but it has happened because of my belief system about myself, and low self-esteem has a lot to do with that. Wanting to have the last word. That comes from a lot of insecurity, and usually that's kind of an earmark of someone who has somebody that has a narcissistic trait. Maybe not narcissistic personality disorder, although it could be, but a trait. It's an insecurity of having to have the last word, and I'm right, and you're not going to say one more thing, and I'm going to be the one that's, tells the truth, and I'm going to say it. Not sharing your thoughts or feelings because you're afraid to be embarrassed. Ooh, that's a good one. And I think that's a mix of, we have to learn, or we are learning, or we have learned who to trust, right? Some people, I think, over the years, I've trusted and shouldn't have, and shared things with them that I never should have, because they couldn't be trusted with my pain or that vulnerability. And so there's a mix there. There's a combination of learning who to trust and then being able to share appropriately with that person in order not to feel embarrassed or humiliated. Sometimes we get worried about failure. We fail. Everybody fails. Everybody sucks at something, right? I hate to see it as, I don't like the word fail so much. The only reason I like it is because it should just has a note of or a definition of a definite end. I feel like when we think we're a failure or failed at something, it's a lesson. It's a lesson to learn. It's more of a lesson rather than failure. Because to me, failure is the end. I'm not doing any more, even though you could. It's like an end. And you're letting that mistake or that failure get to you, that you don't move on. That's how I see it anyway. But still, we feel harsh about it. We feel embarrassed. We don't want anybody to know. We feel terrible. We fail at something. Heaven forbid, right? Also, that can happen because of what happens in childhood, right? If we spill milk and instead of just seeing it as a mistake and you help clean it up, and your parents or whoever is very kind about it and understanding it was a mistake, instead of being, I know when that happened to me, oh my God, you think the world was ending. It was the worst thing possible, and what an idiot I was, and how dare I, and I made a mess of everything, and I ruined everything. And that was hard and harsh. And I know many people have had that happen to them. Just a simple mistake that kids make. And it's as if the world is ending because the parent or caregiver is just shaming them beyond anything. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Instead of being compassionate, empathetic, and helping clean up and just saying, that happens. I spilled milk one time. I know what that's like, and it does make a mess, but hey, help me clean it up. And, next time, just when you reach, just watch your arm and make sure, just teach them how to be a little more careful. We don't have to berate anybody for making a mistake, but it happens. And that's because the parent, oops, there's my computer. I see a glitch there. Sorry about that. The parent or caregiver was probably beaten up for or shamed for making a mistake, and they never dealt with that. So they're just keep going and shaming the next generation. And that's very unfortunate. Being a perfectionist, some people, gosh, this is so true. They feel so bad about themselves. The child will become the straight A student. They'll become the perfect person. They'll become the perfect adult, which there is no such thing. We need to strive for excellence, but perfection is rarely going to be the outcome. It could be wonderful, but we should be striving for excellence. When we strive for perfection, then we want it from everybody else and expect it from everybody else. That is another narcissistic trait. Narcissists feel very, very much ashamed and insecure. I think I shared that with you before when we talked about it. It's a big empty hole in them, and they have to cover it up. And there are different types of narcissism. So I believe I shared that too. But so they have to cover that up, and they have to do it by any means possible to make sure that they look good. It's all about them. It's all about their world, protecting that big empty space. They're like an empty fort. They're protecting. Okay, so let me move on. Feeling like an outsider or that you are different or left out. Man, I know I have felt that way. I think many people feel that way, like, oh, I don't deserve to be here. I'm not important. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough to be among these people. Who would want to be with me, or who would want to hear from me? That kind of thing. It's like we have this belittling effect on ourselves because we feel like we don't belong. And again, that's the story we tell ourselves. That's because that part of that coping mechanism is to be a wallflower, to shrink ourselves small. It's all a part of that story, and that's a shame effect. It's just so unfortunate and very, very sad. The opposite of that is the narcissistic trait of being braggadocious. And hey, I'm everything, and I know everything. I know more than you, and I'm going to top your story. Same, but coming from the same insecure place. Now, I'm not saying you or I or other people are narcissistic. I'm just saying that in certain people, that shame can create narcissistic personality and narcissistic characteristics in people. It kind of go the opposite way of being a wallflower, right? Yeah, really is. I think we've all been around those people. And they can be highfalutin. A lot of CEOs, politicians, ministers, pastors, rabbis, they get there because they have this huge ego, and they just become authority figures. Not all of them, obviously, but some of them. Okay, so let's see. Let's continue. Feeling suspicious or like you can't trust others. So it's that constant feeling of, I don't know who to trust. I don't trust them. I don't trust you. I don't trust anybody. I can't. It's because it goes back to having trusted the wrong people for the wrong reasons. It's because we didn't have very healthy boundaries. It's all connected. It's all connected. This is why I'm doing this series. Everything is entwined. It's all connected. It's not just one certain thing. Everything is connected. Our coping mechanisms, how we feel about ourselves, the effects of shame, and all these symptoms of shame, and the shame statements we tell ourselves, they're shame-based. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. All that enough stuff is shame-based. That's the problem. it's one thing to acknowledge a part of ourselves that, hey, I can improve on that. I think I'll work on that. I want to be healthier, so I'm going to eat better. Maybe I'll drop a few pounds as I do it, all the better. We have kind of a more mature, healthy aspect to these parts of us that, yeah, I can improve that. Instead of feeling you're a complete loser because you're a few pounds overweight or whatever. We can put stories to everything to keep us in a box and to keep us ashamed of ourselves. And it was never ours to begin with. That's the thing. It was never ours to begin with. It was put on us. And that's what I think we need to understand. Let me put it this way. Some people do grow up and do terrible things because of the symptoms of what I'm talking about, like narcissistic, psychopathy, people with, that's a whole other extreme, which maybe I'll get into one time, maybe not. I touched on it the other day. But there are people who do terrible things and should be ashamed. They should feel shame. But most of them don't. They don't. And that's the sad part. Instead, they put the shame on their innocent victims. That's the craziness of it all, right? That's the insanity of it all, if you ask me, anyway. So it's not yours to have. So let me continue. I know I really want to get through this list. Just a few more to go, because I think many of us can identify with at least a handful of these things. It doesn't mean all these things you feel or have inside you. Okay, where was I? Oh, feeling that you can't be your true self. Yeah, sometimes we feel like we have to cover up ourselves. We have to make up a thing about ourselves. We're not truly ourselves. We can't really be vulnerable. We can't really be, some personalities. Some people come into the world, they're just fantastic and they're outgoing and they're amazing and they have a lot of fun, but they feel they have to hide that part of themselves, like it's not acceptable. And maybe they were punished for it when they were a kid, for being outgoing or a little different or whatever, and so they feel they have to change themselves instead of that being loved and guarded and guided in their personality. It was shameful to be different. It was shameful to be a gay little child. The father wants him to be macho and he likes dancing. He likes music. He likes coloring, whatever. I mean, I don't mean to be stereotypical. I'm just saying the father may have a perception their son has to be a certain way and love football, love baseball, love all the sports. Maybe they're not even gay, but they don't like sports. They would rather play the piano. But there's shame put on them because there's a stereotypical view of how a child should be. And for girls as well. And I know that those parents are living in their shame and they're only living by their default mode. But the more we can understand, the more we can be open about this and the more we can help ourselves, especially if you're younger and you're a parent, the more we can help ourselves to recover, to help ourselves get better, we will be much more effective parents, raising children who are more stable, mentally healthy, mentally knowing they're loved and cared for unconditionally. Doesn't mean they're going to be without problems or whatever, but they'll have more stability in handling them. So that's why I'm so passionate about all of this, to break that cycle that so many of us have been in for generations. So let's continue. Losing your identity, feeling inadequate. Yeah, the whole I'm not good enough stuff. Feeling of regret and feelings of being dishonorable. I wonder what that's about. Why would you feel dishonorable? That was on this list. And I'm like, did you do anything to be dishonorable? Or does a child feel dishonorable because of what they're being told they should be like and they're not? So that's the list. And I think it's important to go over it, like watch this video again or maybe take notes, because If we can identify some of these things and understand that we don't have to be used by people. We don't have to be used. That has to do with not having healthy boundaries. And if we're feeling used, usually it's because we're letting ourselves be a victim of someone else's personality disorder or characteristic, or they're just not being respectful of you. I've had that in my life, so I know what that feels like. So I don't want to be used. It's good to have healthy boundaries. A lot of these things have to do with healthy boundaries and emotional intelligence and understanding better our feelings and our thoughts and our emotions. So when I go back to all of this, and remember, I think it was a few weeks ago, I talked about how when I mentioned shame, envision yourself as a circle. Okay, let's say we're a circle. That's just a symbolic of us, of our whole being, of who we are, our essence, our personality, and that's us. And if something happened, maybe someone criticized us, maybe somebody said something mean to us, or maybe we felt embarrassed or put on the spot, and that humiliation, embarrassment comes through because, again, the shame is the foundation. And so suddenly you put an X through that circle. You feel like you're one big mistake. You feel like you're a failure. You feel like you're worthless. Your whole life is nothing, right? Because of that humiliation and embarrassment. We got to understand, we need to understand that that is never the case. That's old stories. That's the primitive part of the brain wanting to protect us, saying, well, if you feel this way, you're going to go hide, and then you'll never feel that way again. It's very dysfunctional. All we have to identify is that's one tiny little dot that will fade away. It means nothing. Might it sting for a minute? It could. And we need to look at, wow, that hurt my feelings. And you might make an assessment of, wow, that person does that a lot to me. Why did they put me down and they call it a joke? I don't know if I want to hang around that person anymore. That's okay to think that. Or have a discussion with them and say, when you say things like that, I'm not fond of that. It kind of hurts. I just don't think it's necessary. And if they don't listen, if they don't abide by your boundary, because that's a very decent boundary to have, not to be overly teased, pointed out in front of people. Even though you're handling it well, they shouldn't be doing that anyway, not to you. It's okay to mention it kindly. And if they keep doing it, then it's like, okay, this is not the type of friend I want in my life. I think I'm going to bow out of that relationship. That's okay to do, to protect yourself and to grow. Be around, we want to try our best to be around people who are like-minded, and we have common interests in, and we can learn from, and they can learn from us, and there's a give and take, and there's respect. That's the kind of people we want to be with. At least I do. A lot of people have dropped off in my life over the years. I remember one person in particular, I even had a conversation with and said, I'm so sorry, I can't be friends with you. And this is somebody that I had known for years. We were couples, like when I was married, and she and her husband, and we get together a lot and have a nice time and share holidays together and stuff like that. And when I went through my divorce, she had no knowledge of what was going on. And yet she blamed me for everything. She didn't know about the betrayal or the verbal abuse or what was going on. She had no knowledge of it whatsoever. But she blamed me for everything, for breaking up our family, like I wanted to, right? Anyway, when that occurred, I can't tell you how much that hurt me. And I had to tell her, I can't continue our relationship, and I can't continue this anymore. This relationship, our friendship is over. And I couldn't trust her anymore. And that was a hard thing for me to do. It was really hard. And I look back, we did have nice times together, but I think I trusted somebody who I didn't realize at the time was one-sided. And anyway, it was difficult, but I had to do it. And I wasn't going to partake in that friendship anymore. Other friends, you just kind of don't hear from anymore, or even geographical changes, we move and whatnot, and we just kind of fade away, and that's fine. I have hardcore friends I've known for 30 years. We still stay in touch. We're still in touch. And when months go by and we happen to do a Zoom call together, because they live in a different state now, it's like no time passes. You know what that's like. It's amazing and it's wonderful. But sometimes it's okay to have your healthy boundaries and say, I don't want to be around this person anymore. They're not good for me. There's no upliftment or enlightenment. There's too much gossip going on, or judgmental, people being judgmental, and it's not enlightening and it's not fun. So it's good to find people that you enjoy and who are like-minded, and you learn from, and they learn from you, and you grow together, and that's a good friendship to have, I think, anyway. So sometimes we need to even spend less time with family members who are hurtful, who are staying in their default mode. And it's okay to have your boundaries, even with family members, to limit your time with them. Sometimes it's, family gatherings or whatever, and people will be around. Doesn't mean you have to spend your whole evening with them, or the meal. It just kind of, how are you? Nice to see you, and walk away, that kind of thing. Whatever you need to do to protect yourself if you feel vulnerable around certain people, again, including family members. So I was going to go on to what are the behaviors of those of us who have let shame take over our lives? What are some of the behaviors? Well, looking down, not looking at people in the eye when you're speaking to them. You look everywhere else. You look down, you look sideways, you look above their heads. It's like really difficult to look at them. Because, our eyes connect soul to soul, right? And if we're not feeling good about ourselves, or we're feeling like this person has it together, and they're awesome and they're cool, and we're like idolizing this person, instead of seeing, we're just people. We're the same. It's all good. You have things that you can offer them. They have things that they can offer you. It's all good. But we don't. We minimize ourselves. And so it's hard to look people in the eye. Keeping your head hung low, just kind of keeping it low. You don't look up much. Even our body posture, if we're slumping, if we're kind of making ourselves little, that's a telltale sign of just the behavior of that inner shame, of just, doing that. I used to do that a lot. It's like make myself little. I remember feeling that way. Now here's something that's really cool that I learned over the years, is practicing kind of empowerment moves, which I love. And if you're going somewhere and you're not feeling very certain, or you're unsure, you might not know a lot of people or whatever, this really works. At least I found it to work. You just do power moves. And you're alone, obviously. You stand in front of a mirror and you just like put your legs apart a little bit, put your hands in the air, and just like, yes, I got this. It gives a powerful feeling, and you stand up straight, or you put your hands on your hips and you're like, this is going to be a great day. I got this. It's really, our body posture sends a signal to the brain, and it will help us improve how we feel about ourselves. If we're feeling uncertain, you'll be surprised. I say give it a try. Deep breaths, talking positive about yourself. If we practice that, it's not necessarily in one day, oh, everything's going to be wonderful. But if we practice that at times or consistently, however you want to do it, like if you feel like you're only going to do it before you go to a social setting, or you do it every morning. I got this. This is going to be a great day. There are times rolling out of bed where I didn't sleep well. I'm tired. And then, when we're tired, we're so vulnerable. It's like then our monkey mind goes into play, and then we feel crummy about ourselves because we feel crummy physically, and it just snowballs. It's just automatic. It happens to everybody, by the way. But if we train ourselves to get out of bed, not stay in that place, that physical setting, but if we get out of bed, stand wherever you are, either in front of a mirror or wherever you are, and just do these power moves, deep breathe, tell yourself it's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good day. And we have that faith in knowing that no matter what comes our way, we'll handle it. It'll be okay. We're going to handle it. Man, it starts your day off well. Makes that coffee taste a lot better. I think it sounds silly, but our bodies really, when we move, the way we move, it's an energy, it's a vibration. And when we can make that happen, it's like generators. It's like an energy system, a power plant. Our power that we get, electricity, needs a power plant. We are our own power plant. We can create it. It might start out slow and a little bit here and there, but you'll see it really can be helpful. It can. And so I want to give you that tip. I think that's awesome. Our body language, the way we comport ourselves, the way we sit up, the way we present ourselves, even the way we go for a walk. I've noticed, because I like to walk a lot, and I when I walked, I would kind of bend over, and now I try to be more aware of being taller while I walk. And I find I breathe better when I do that as well. It's just helpful all the way around, for me anyway. So if we're mindful how we're sitting and how we're breathing and our posture, your power within you is immense. It's immense. The difficulty is it's being covered by all this ooey gooey stuff that we have had to deal with, and then the stories we tell ourselves and all that stuff, right? It gets blocked. It's there. Imagine a flashlight, a really bright flashlight, but if we put our hand over it, barely the light gets through the cracks of our fingers and around the edges, right? It's there. It's always there. But if we can do this and just take time to do our self-discovery and our personal growth and develop ways to manage life better and healthier, man, that light's going to shine brighter. And it's beautiful. You're a beautiful human being. You're amazing. I keep telling you, you're amazing. You got to remember that part. So here's another behavior: feeling frozen or unable to move. It has to do with that flight, fight, or freeze mode. Sometimes we can get stuck in a certain mode emotionally. We haven't grown past that. So it's a part of not being seen, feeling little. I'm not going to move. Maybe as a kid in class, you did not want your teacher to call on you. I remember that feeling. I barely would raise my hand for anything because I felt like I was the dumbest student in the classroom. And I would hate it when she would call on me and I didn't have my hand raised. I remember that. I felt so embarrassed and humiliated. My mind was constantly on how I just wasn't good enough. I focused on that. I believed that. And so it affected every part of me. It affected my learning. I was convinced I couldn't learn because I had dyslexia, but I was convinced I couldn't learn, that I was going to be stupid all the time. And so my mind, that was my mind frame. That's what I focused on. And that was put a lot of shame on me, just that shame, just ooey gooey. It was hard to be present. It was hard to be present in life, even as a young adult. It was hard to be present because I was so focused on being so self-conscious. Man, I look back on those days and go, that is not a way to live. And I want better for you, and I hope you want better for you. If you're listening to me and you can relate to what I'm saying. Another is hiding yourself from others, which is what I just said. We kind of make ourselves look little. We talk softly. We don't, use a full voice when we talk. Sometimes we'll burst out in tears if we feel humiliated and embarrassed. We don't know how to respond, and we feel so awful. It makes us cry. It's so sad. We feel so awful and sad. The things we believe about ourselves, it's so messed up. We can untangle it. We can get rid of it. And these are the things, this is why I'm talking about all this stuff and saying we can change this way of thinking and feeling. Now, I do think that as we become adults, some of us are able to make that switch. Some of us are just by nature able to recognize some of these things and go, you know what? I'm not going to feel that way anymore. I don't want to feel that way anymore. And we just kind of make a conscious effort to change. And it's beautiful. Sometimes that just happens. Other times we know something needs to change, but we're not sure what it is. Again, this is why I share what I share, because it's vague and it feels blurry. But when we can put words to it, we can identify it, when we can know where it stems from, and we can reverse engineer all this, you have the power to make the switch, to make changes. And if what I'm saying is bringing up some things that, not to trigger anybody, I never want to trigger anybody, but if it's hitting on things you're like, oh my gosh, I get this, I need to get help, I hope you find a really great therapist and counselor. I really do, because they can get into more detail for you. They can help you dig further than I can in these videos. And I think that's important. And I'm always here to support you. I'm always here to help. I'm always here to be a compassionate guide. I'm also someone that wants to be honest, and I will explain things on an honest level. Sometimes we need that clarity, which is what I'm trying to do now. We need more clarity so things aren't so blurry. But you can be your true self. And sometimes we don't even know, what is my true self? I don't even know anymore, right? It's like, I'm just not sure. Well, the ways you can do that is just feel it. Feel in your gut when you're out and about. Maybe even something simple. Maybe you've always worn the same kind of clothes because you felt like I had to. This is what I was supposed to wear. This is what, I have to wear. But you're drawn to certain patterns or certain colors, but you're afraid to wear them, but you're drawn to them. I'd say go buy that blouse. Put it on. Go to the grocery store. Go out. Feel it. Feel within yourself what feels right to you. Because if you're more of a colorful human being, you're an extrovert and you're passionate and you like to, be yourself. But again, you were told not to be. You were hidden. You were told, you have to be this way, not that way. Find those subtle feelings within you that you go, I connect with that. That makes me happy. And disregard for a second, oh, I'm not supposed to. Oh, I shouldn't. Oh, I can't. Oh, I'm too old. I'm too old to take art classes. I'm too old to do this. I'm too young to do that. No, you're going to find your way. You will find your way. You're going to find your way back to true self. So do what inspires you, do what hits your soul, makes you happy, that you feel like you connect with and want to try. I really want to encourage people to try, just try. Take that art class, take that voice lesson, take an acting class. Go to your local college and take some courses that you're interested in, whatever it might be. No harm in it, right? The best thing you're going to do is learn something, and you might learn, oh, okay, I thought it was this, but I think it's this. And you're doing this, you're guiding yourself into what you want to do or where you want to go or how you want to be or how you want to feel. It's really good to be yourself, to be who you are, and not be embarrassed by it. Because that's old stuff. That's the old way, when you were taught to be embarrassed by being who you are. Be around people who accept you the way you are. It doesn't mean that there aren't things that we need to hone in or train or learn, because we all do, and we all will to the day we die. But you can do it authentically, you being you. That's the beauty of it. You have that divine DNA in you, and you have that part of you, your soul, that is uniquely you. And the world needs to see that. I'd love to see it. So I'm going to end it there today and just remind you that you are an amazing human being. And you are a miracle on this planet, and you matter so much. Learn how not to allow that hidden shame to affect your life. Do what you can to make those changes. Find your healthy boundaries. I'm here to help. I'm going to stick my email in the information box. You can always email me if you have a question or if you want to work together. I'd love that. But in the meantime, you do you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. You're amazing. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.